Okay, we're back with more Baldie's baseball talk. You will have to pardon my appearance. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. Wine has been consumed. And the Red Sox had a fucking huge win tonight to kick off the unofficial de facto second half of the 2017 season over the Yankees. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about three things, including, let's see, I got my handy-dandy notes here. Got the All-Star game, because a couple of things have happened since I spoke to you guys last. And the kitty cat loves bugs on the ceiling. We're going to talk about Aaron Judge in the home run derby and his lackluster performance in the All-Star game, just because. We're going to talk about the Boston Red Sox finally giving Pablo Sandoval the old DFA, designated for assignment, thank God. And we're going to talk about the Sox's big win tonight in the bottom of the ninth at Fenway over the Yankees. But also one quick thing after the credits. And that quick thing is that I have to apologize for the probably 5 people that watched the last episode. A friend of mine turned me on to the fact that, and yes, I have kitty hair all over me. I look awful. The fact that, yeah, I fucked up. I was under a time crunch last time. I guess I fucked up the editing. And I also had a major fuck up where I said, boy, I was excited for Chris Sale to make Aaron Judge look like shit at the All-Star game by striking him out. Idiot. Like, I'm not used to Judge and Sale being on the same fucking team. Or rooting for any Yankee for that matter. Oops. But, hey. Judge didn't need Chris Sale to look like shit at the All-Star game because he came off the high that was the home run derby, hitting a bunch of cookies right over the left field wall. Oh boy, at Marlins Park in Miami, obviously. That's where the All-Star game was. Back to the window behind the left field bleachers. Hey, whatever. The league and evidently the National League, too, are on to Aaron Judge. They know how to pitch him now. He can't hit a breaking pitch. He reminds me kind of a little bit of a guy named Willie Malpena that Boston got about 10 years ago. They traded Bronson Arroyo for him in one of the dumbest trades that Theo ever made in Boston. He could hit balls just as far as Judge. Okay, maybe not just as far as Judge, but really far. And they thought he was the next... the next Ted Williams or the next Manny Ramirez, let's say, at the time. But he can't hit a breaking ball, and neither can Aaron Judge. I don't know the exact line. I think he struck out twice and popped out once in the All-Star game before he was removed. Don't quote me on that. Whatever. It's late. But yeah, Aaron Judge can't hit a breaking ball, and the Red Sox figured that out tonight, too, when they got him out a couple of times. Because all he can hit is fastballs. Even then, actually, tonight, they threw some right down the middle, and he couldn't hit squat. Anyway, glasses are back. Yeah, the All-Star game, the good guys, the American League won in 10 innings, thanks to Robbie Cano hitting a bomb that I actually missed because I was driving. I watched the game with my dear old dad, and then I went home around the 8th. And by the time I turned it back on, they were ahead, and they won. So I did some calculations. Since 1986, when I was born, the American League, also known as the good guys, the younger of the two, has won 24 of the 31 All-Star games that were played since I was born. Despite all the promos and the commercials and the talk shows and the radio shows and the media always talking about the big-time lineup that the National League brings year in and year out, especially the last 5 to 10 years. Oh, they got Bryce Harper, they got this guy, they got that guy. Whatever. The American League clearly, during my era, from the beginning of the steroid era on, has clearly destroyed the National League, and it's just a superior bunch of players, in my opinion. But that's an argument that is kind of fruitless to make anyway. It doesn't really matter. There's so many different statistics and variables that go into making that kind of argument, and it's too late for me to do it. And I have reflections in my eyeballs. Hey, before we move on, I do want to say one thing about the All-Star Game. At first, I wasn't a big fan of Manfred's decision to kind of switch things up long-term in Major League Baseball as a whole, not just the All-Star Game, to appeal to a younger audience because the ratings are going down in those younger demographics. Everybody's watching football. Older people like my age and up watch baseball. Everybody else that's younger watches football. So, you know, they're doing a couple different things. I guess there's a weekend sometime this summer where they're going to let all the ball players wear their nicknames on their uniform instead of their actual last name. They're trying to quicken the pace of the game by having basically a shot clock or a pitch clock that they may be instituting next year, or strengthening those rules that already exist but aren't followed. But at the All-Star Game, if you sat there and watched the whole thing, I don't get bored by baseball. A lot of people thought it was a boring game, but I actually liked a lot of the off-the-field and non-baseball on-the-field things that they did, like having Bryce Harper mic'd up to speak during the game from the outfield to Joe Buck in the Fox Sports booth, which I thought was actually kind of cool. And especially since it's just an exhibition now, nobody was taking it too seriously, and they were just having fun with it. I believe it was Yadier Molina, if memory serves. He had the gold catcher's gear on, and he took out his fucking cell phone and took a selfie with Joe West, the umpire, to commemorate like his bajillionth game umpired. I thought that was pretty cool. There was a lot of cool things like that that had Manfred's fingerprints on it. You know, it was only an exhibition, but it clearly shows that he's trying to make the game more exciting for younger people. It didn't really work to increase the ratings because it was barely a blip higher than it was last year, the 2016 and 2017 All-Star Game compared. But I like it. Hey, second thing we're going to talk about is something that I've been waiting, well, pretty much since midway through the 2015 season. Dave Dombrowski, who didn't sign the player, but Dave Dombrowski finally was given permission to DFA Pablo Sandoval, the overweight and underperforming, really expensive letdown third baseman for the Boston Red Sox. If you've been following the whole Sandoval saga over the last couple of years, he basically signed a 5-year, $95 million contract seemingly a long time ago. John Henry and the rest of the Red Sox ownership group thought they were getting like a power hitter just because he did well in a couple of postseasons for San Francisco. I was all about the deal a couple of years ago because the Red Sox were starving for any kind of offense. Understood. They needed something. They signed him and Hanley Ramirez. But man, they really overpaid for Sandoval. His line was, well, let's see. Came to Boston in 2015. He hit, let's see. He hit 245 with 10 home runs in his first season. His best was 23 homers in 2011 for San Francisco. Not exactly a power hitter, but 10 home runs is a big letdown. Then he hit absolutely nothing in 2016 because he only played in 3 games. Yeah, he played in 3 games before having surgery. So he's a complete bust that year. This year he played in 32 games and he hit 212 with 4 home runs. So total, he actually played in 161 games lifetime for Boston, which is actually exactly the same number that Carl Crawford, the other expensive, huge, high-profile bust in the last couple of years that Boston signed, that I was also all for at the time. So yeah, $95 million. He had, I think his WAR was like 2 total lifetime for Boston. Don't quote me on that either. Listen, that was a Ben Cherington signing a couple of years ago. Like I said, they were starving for offense. They needed to do something. He was the highest profile position player on the market that year. They had to sign somebody. But that was a Ben Cherington signing. He's no longer here. Ownership gave Dave Dombrowski, who I love, the permission to make the really expensive decision to get rid of, because trust me, nobody's going to pick up his deal. He's DFA'd. But within 10 days, they have to decide if they want to keep him or outright release him or trade him to another team, but nobody's going to grab him. Anyway, Dave Dombrowski made the expensive decision to flush the rest of the $48 million of John Henry's money down the toilet to keep this first-place Red Sox team competitive and a better team on the field. Because let's face it, with that guy not fielding any balls at third base and hitting 212 or whatever he was hitting this year, they were a weaker team with him there on the Major League team. And they can't keep him in Pawtucket forever. So, Pete Abraham, at Pete Abe on Twitter, writer for the Boston Globe, he had an interesting stat here. He says, from July 31st to November 25th, 2014, the Red Sox traded for Alan Craig and signed Rusney Castillo and Pablo Sandoval. $195.4 million for a minus 1.5 WAR. None of them are on the Major League team. Alan Craig and Pablo Sandoval now are no longer with the organization. That's a lot of money down the toilet. But us being spoiled Red Sox fans, it's pretty neat to be able to afford, we say we, but it's good that the Boston Red Sox can afford really expensive mistakes like that, because there's probably about 5 Major League franchises that could afford to swallow that kind of money and not have the Major League team suffer long term for it. Pretty much Boston, New York, Los Angeles Dodgers, not many others. But hey, the Red Sox are going to be a better team without him. Rafael Devers was promoted to AAA Pawtucket. We will be talking about him in the coming weeks and months. Moving on. The last thing I want to say is that the Boston Red Sox had a huge, really kind of bizarre but not lacking for excitement win tonight in their 4-game set against New York in Fenway Park. The Red Sox, hey, they earned it, man, but they didn't really get a lot of balls out of the infield tonight. They did end up winning 5-4 over the Yankees. Chapman takes the loss, blowing in spectacular style the save and taking the loss in the bottom of the 9th. The Yankees had a, let's see, they had a 4-3 lead from the 5th inning on. Yankees pitching pretty much shut down the Sox, and the Sox were helping them out a lot. And then the 9th inning came, and Chapman, like I said, blew it spectacularly. It's actually the 18th blown save for the Yankees this year. They've lost 19 of their past 24, if memory serves. Not a good way for them to start the second half of the season. Great way for the Sox to win, even though you would like them to win with a walk-off hit or a walk-off home run. They still won in style. They had the bases loaded with, I believe, 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. Didn't get a ball out of the infield, but Chapman walked to, couldn't find the plate, couldn't find the strike zone. Had Andrew Benintendi worked all the way back from, I believe, 3-0 all the way to a full count, and pretty much threw one at his knees and walked in the winning run at Fenway Park. So, yeah, kind of weird, but the park was as ecstatic and energetic as I've seen them all year. Great way to start the second half. Red Sox are up 4.5 games in the division. If they really make a statement and win 2 or 3 games here during this series, man, they play 45, I believe, 45 of their final games at home in the second half of the season. That's, I don't know, like 65% or something, whatever. It's fucking early. Yeah, so the schedule really benefits them going forward. I think if the Red Sox can make a legitimate good deal for a third baseman, or, well, they need a third baseman, or a really good hitter, they need to have somebody. Listen, I'm going to go on a little rant just for a minute. When the Red Sox have the bottom half of their order made of guys like Marrero, Lewin, a Mitch Moreland who clearly has run out of gas, Sam Travis who just came up from AAA, and Chris Young, a bench guy who he's a damn good player, but when that's the bottom half of your order and you're in first place by 4.5 games, this game tonight, yeah, it was good that they won, but it shows what I've been preaching about the entire season so far, and that's that they need a legit fucking middle-of-the-order hitter, preferably at third base. Hey, listen, they may not get Giancarlo Stanton. It'd be pretty neat if they did. But I don't want them to settle for like a Todd Frazier with his .212 bitch-ass batting average. You know, I'd like an Adrian Beltre to make his triumphant return to Boston. Or somebody. Don't just wait for Rafael Devers to have his 2 months in AAA and then come up to the big club and help them win a World Series. Give me a break. I want them to have somebody steady at third base that can fucking hit. Because Boston had probably left like fucking 22 guys on base tonight. At least that's what it felt like. And still won the game. Thank you, New York Yankees pitching. Listen, Adrian Beltre, I don't even fucking know. Dave Dombrowski gets paid the big bucks. Boston needs a bat. Okay? They don't need another starting pitcher. They don't really need another 7th or 8th inning guy. The bullpen's been pretty solid. It's not perfect. Yeah, they could get somebody else to help bridge the gap between the starters and Joe Kelly / Craig Kimbrell. I think they need a bat. Okay? Like, they don't have David Ortiz anymore. It's not that they're missing David Ortiz. It's that they're missing a David Ortiz. They need somebody that can really generate some run support. When you get guys like Chris Sale losing games 4-1, you know, or Pomeranz like tonight keeping Boston in the game and the Sox can't generate any runs, listen, it's time to get a bat. Sox are up 4.5 games. There's 3 games left. Chris Sale goes Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I'll see you in a couple days.